beautiful people. My name is Emma.
And I'm MC.
And we are your hosts of the G-Forces podcast. So, this upcoming week is the Miami Grand Prix. It's the first time that we'll be watching the Miami Grand Prix. This entire, first half of the season, it's the first time we're watching any of these races.
Yeah, I feel like I don't remember watching anything until, Silverstone last year.
I definitely remember stuff before that.
I think you were, more invested at that point than I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Miami looks to be, I don't know, it looks
kind of
crazy.
Excited for it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, in the fandom, don't really enjoy Miami because it's kind of just all celebrities. So it'll be interesting to see who actually comes out to it. Let's hope that there's not another Australian Grand Prix bathroom incident with all of the people who get invited. I think it'll be a good race, though.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I haven't done any research on it yet, so I don't really know any information about the course. So, yeah, I'm excited. It'll be interesting, because I feel like I love COTA so much. I love the Grand Prix down in Texas. And so I think it's going to be an interesting change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how different this is compared to Texas or Vegas. But
I feel like each of the cities that they have races at in the U.S. have very distinct identities.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's not like as much as we're New Yorkers and we're supposed to hate Chicago and Boston, if they were to do a race in Chicago, Boston, and New York, there's distinct identities, but they're so northern metropolitan cities that they don't have significantly different identities in a weird way.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
So I think it'll be a good race. I think the drivers are excited for it. I think they typically enjoy it. I know that there's a lot of media usually involved with this race in particular.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a busy weekend. There's going to be a lot going on. Is it another sprint weekend?
It is a sprint weekend.
And we have F1 Academy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have any sleep.
It's going to be a busy weekend. And we're in our own personal lives, we're traveling. So it's going to be
very hectic for us. But it's a race at a normal time for us.
Yeah. So
very excited about that one.
We won't complain. We will not sit here and lament to you guys.
So in our Get Ready episode, MC is going, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so like we've said before and we'll say every time, Miami is a newer GP on the schedule. So there's not as much history or I don't know, there's not a great story or driver that I feel is tied to Miami just yet. So I wanted to continue on the team principal train, and because there was big news this week about Nico Hülkenberg and him transferring, I wanted to kind of take a deep dive into Haas's team principal, Ayao Komatsu. I feel I knew nothing about the guy. I feel a lot of people don't know much about the guy, a lot of team principals. And so we're just going to go through his career and how he got to being a team principal. So, yeah, what about you? I don't know what you're going over.
Yeah, so like I said a couple weeks ago, I think I've run out of general parts to talk about instead of doing parts of the week now. If there is a specific part of the week that you want me to talk about, comment it somewhere and I will talk about that, but I don't have anything major to talk about unless I were to get into the nitty-gritty of stuff, and that might be a bit too much to go over in a podcast. So like I did a couple weeks ago, I went over a historical race or a race that happened way back when at that track. So this is not actually at this track because Miami is a relatively newer track, but there actually was a US Grand Prix in Florida, which if you are international and you don't know where Miami is in the States, Miami is in the state of Florida. I don't know if people know that.
No, you're right. Maybe I'm assuming.
I assume most people would know where Miami is, but also we have grown up in the U.S. our whole lives, so.
True.
But there was another race back in 1959 in the state of Florida, so I'm going to be talking about the 1959 U.S. Grand Prix.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's get into it.
All right, so the first thing I will say is that definitely was impressed by his background. I don't know what I was expecting. I think because there was so little information on Mike Crack. He was the, if you haven't listened into that episode, he was the prior.
What episode that was.
I think it was 2 or 3 episodes
I think it was
ago.
Japan.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, so, like, Aston Martin doesn't have, like, a bio about him on their website from when I was doing research. And it was hard to find information on Mike Crack, but it was nice because Haas had, like, a whole bio about his career and how he got there. So, made research easy, and I knew it was a reputable source.
Well, and also, MC did find a typo on Haas's website.
Yeah,
so Haas, if you're listening.
So if anyone from Haas is listening, your very first word in his bio, you're missing the K on his last name. So it just says Komatsu. So you might want to correct that. I was trying to find an email for you, but your website doesn't have one.
We'll DM them on Instagram.
Yeah. Just a quick typo. Anyways, so Ayao was born on January 28th in 1976 in Tokyo, Japan. His interest in F1 peaked relatively early and I thought this was really interesting, F1 races were broadcast in free-to-air, like, radio across Japan. And he had some core racing memories, including, like, the infamous 1989 Japanese Grand Prix. I mean, Senna, Prost, we got drama. So, really cool to see that it was, like, something that just anyone could listen to on the radio. Yeah. Especially now because you need to have, like, subscriptions, except for the big announcement that they just made. But that's only for Americans.
Yeah, but in the UK, if you have a Sky Sports subscription...
Yeah, but you're supposed to pay for a subscription. Like, it's not free.
Yeah, but I think, like, if you have, like, a cable...
Yeah, but you're still, like...
If in the UK, you have to get, like, a TV license. Yeah. Because, like, the BBC and everything. So I think a lot of people have actual cable in the UK. So they can watch... It's like, if we had cable, we'd be able to watch the races on ESPN.
True. Okay. Anyways, he wanted to become an engineer in F1. So at 18, he moved to the home of motorsport, England. He chose to study automotive engineering at Loughborough University, and I looked at this university. It's been around since the 60s, and it's super, like, well known for engineering, automotive engineering. Part of his program, he got an industry placement, which I'm pretty sure is kind of just like a co-op, like with what Jonathan did.
Jonathan is our brother.
Oh, yeah. We have another sibling. Part of his program, he got an industry placement at Lotus Engineering. Apparently, his boss at this job owned an old F3 car and would spend weekends at tracks. And so this allowed Ayao to gain a lot of insight into motorsport, into kind of like track life, things like that. He graduated in 1999, but wanted to continue on with his education, so he went on to get his PhD in the same field, in that automotive engineering, which didn't know that. Like, didn't know he has his PhD. While working on his PhD, he did free work, like, he was a free agent. I'm not really sure if he, like, was... Like, what he was doing, they didn't really describe what he was doing. They were just like, while he was doing his PhD, like, he was just kind of rambling about. During this time, he met Takuma Sato, who is not someone we've ever spoken about before, but he was the driver that Laura was speaking to on F1 TV during the Japanese Grand Prix. He's one of the most famous Japanese drivers ever, and he's actually a 2-time Indy 500 champ.
Yeah.
So they worked in British Formula 3 together, and I think basically Sato is like a huge reason where Ayao ended up where he was. When he finished his PhD, he started looking for a job, and there were a few opportunities that arose, but, like, just literally logistics on one fell through. projects were abandoned. The same thing we've seen with, I feel like, a few other people's careers. And then he got a call from Sato. Sato ended up connecting him with a gentleman by the name of Soichi Tanaka from Honda Racing Development. In 2003, Ayao got his first full-time motorsport job working for Bar Honda, which is the British racing league, on the test team working on vehicle dynamics. He would go on to be the tire analyst, since at that time Michelin and Bridgestone were suppliers, so he was the tire analyst, kind of figuring out which one was the best, like, for utilization. So he was in that kind of role for 3 years, and then in 2006 he went to Renault. He was in a similar role there, and his first year was the year that Renault driver Fernando Alonso won the championship. In 2007, remember he was on the test team at this point. In 2007, he moved to the race team and became a performance engineer. He was in this role for 3 years. In 2011, some big changes happened. Renault became Lotus F1 team at this point, and then Ayao became a race engineer. In 2011, he was paired with I think it's Vitaly Petrov. And then in 2012, he was paired with Romain Grosjean. And in the 2013 season, the pair together got 9 podium finishes.
Damn.
Yeah. So, like...
I feel like because the only things that I really know about Romain are, like, Drive to Survive stuff at that point. Like, I didn't realize that he was actually, like, a good driver, which sounds horrible, but... Like, by the time that Drive to Survive was filming, like, the performance just wasn't there. I don't think because of him. I think that was, like, the rough years, really, for Haas. Yeah. And now he's an IndyCar driver.
And that's the thing is that he had, from what I was reading, I'm pretty sure he had left F1, and this is when he had come back.
Romain?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I have to see if that was correct. But, yeah, he did pretty well. I will say the success didn't, like... follow. Like, I think this was just, like, a great season.
Yeah.
2 years later, Ayao was promoted to chief engineer at Renault Lotus. And then in 2016, that was the year that Haas entered the grid. Because, he's known Romain at this point for 4 years, Romain signed with Haas, and Komatsu followed pretty quickly after. I mean, I get why he moved. I'm sure a little bit of it was that friendship, that professional relationship you have with a driver, but I also think, it's the first new team on the grid in 6 years, from what I read. It's the first American team.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you not want to be there from the beginning?
Yeah.
Have your name in stone. So he ended up, it was a parallel move, so he continued being chief race engineer, and he was in that position until January of 2024 of this year, when it was announced that he would be promoted to team principal. Some things I want to note, some things that have been talked about since he's been made team principal in the past few months, is that, he has promoted a lot of communication. Haas has a factory in Italy and a factory in the UK.
Yeah.
And from watching interviews that he was having, that he was discussing Haas and the team and being in charge now, he said that one of the biggest hurdles was getting the 2 factories to basically just communicate. And so I think he's dealing with that, but he's also... Haas has never brought upgrades this early in a season before.
Just so wild to me.
And so he's changing the entire structure. And it might not be, like, him alone. I guarantee you there's a whole group of, like, people that are making these decisions. But it is just really interesting to see I feel like Haas is more successful than ever before. Like, I feel like they're having...
They have had seasons
where, better performance.
Like 2017, I think, they had a pretty good season. I think that this is probably their best season since then.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be their best season ever. We'd have to compare it. But I definitely think they're on track for a much better season than they've had the last 3 years.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. But the whole reason why I wanted to talk about Ayao was because it was also announced earlier this week. If any of you guys follow us on Instagram, we reposted. But Nico Hülkenberg, it has been confirmed that he is leaving Haas and he will be driving for Sauber in the 2025 season.
This has been a rumor for a really long time that
Yeah.
this was a move that was going to happen, but because Sauber is not turned to Audi until the 2026 season, people were like, "Oh, maybe he'll stay with Haas until 2026 and then go to Audi." But also given Hulkenberg's age and yeah, he's always a great qualifier, but they always talk about how he was so successful as a younger driver.
Mm-hmm.
And
They always talk about it.
that success followed him in qualifying, but not actual racing. And I don't know if he's actually ever been on the podium. I think he's just a very consistent midfield driver almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if he's just always had cars.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be interesting. I don't know why they necessarily were dying to have him as a driver. I find it interesting, but I guess we'll have to see.
Do you think it's maybe his consistency? Because I feel like that's one of the things that Haas wanted was he is one of the most consistent drivers.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, and then the other rumor is in the past that we don't know when anything's going to be announced is that Carlos is going to be an Audi driver.
Yeah.
And so Carlos does not have a seat for next year at the moment, so he either has to get a 1-year contract from another team or he has to sign with Sauber, and him and Nico will be teammates next year, and then the year after when Sauber turns into Audi. But then right now it's okay, Valtteri and Zhou, which one is out of a seat? Potentially both.
Well, my whole thing too is
they're
Haas,
making this move already.
Is Haas going to pick someone that's currently on the grid, or are they going to pull from the younger pool? Because there are rumors floating around that Ollie's going to be pushed up.
Well, and we don't know if they had a hard time with rookies in the past. We don't know if that was a Gunzer Steiner thing or if it was a whole Haas thing.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
You don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting that, yeah, it's taken a seat away, but I feel like it's opened up, I don't know.
There's been a lot of movement, and I don't know, at first I really thought Fernando was going to go to Mercedes, and then Carlos was going to go to Aston, but Fernando re-signed with Aston. We still don't know who's going to go into the Mercedes seat. People keep saying it's going to be Kimi. I think that is absolute bullshit. Kimi literally skipped over F3 to go to F2, and he is too inexperienced at this point, I think. I don't think he's even spent a lot of time in an F1 car. They're throwing him in it now, Mercedes.
Well,
he's too young, I think. I think they need another year of him testing out in an F1 car. I don't think he's even done a practice session in an F1 car.
No, he has.
I don't think he's done an FP1.
I thought he did.
No.
I'll have to look it up.
Last year it was Fred Vasseur and someone else.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
I thought he was. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. There is, it's a lot of strange movement that I can't really figure out. But,
yeah.
I mean, what do I know? I'm just a fan. Worried. But, yeah, so, I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I also did not realize the level of education that he
That's what we
received.
keep finding out about these guys, that they are very...
And
I think I always assumed
we
that
thought they were stupid.
No,
or
I
just thought they were more
Yes.
more business.
I didn't think that they were so engineering science educated. I thought they were more business political education almost, because your job as team principal is to kind of play politician in some ways.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. But also, I think it does show, make those connections early on when you're young with other young people. You never know where people are going to end up in their field.
Yep.
Be kind to others and, I don't know.
Giving them a life lesson.
Yeah.
All right, let's go talk about the 1959 US Grand Prix. In 1959, the US Grand Prix was not held at what we know today as COTA, because COTA wasn't built until like 15, 20 years ago or something. And so they had them all over the US. Like at some points they had them at like Watkins Glen in New York.
Yeah.
The year of 1960, they had it in Riverside, California. This year, in 1959, it was in Florida at the Sebring International Raceway. We've all heard of Sebring if you're in the motorsport world and social media. Sebring is a raceway that they also have the 12 hours of Sebring or 6 hours of Sebring. And I believe that IndyCar goes to Sebring at some point. Like, it is a track that is still used.
Okay.
I think it was an old military base. I would imagine it's not still a military base if they use it as a racetrack.
Yeah.
But also, you never know. Don't think so, though. The distance of the race, it was 42 laps, and I actually believe that this might have been the first, like, official American Grand Prix, because the way they talked about it was that this guy, the race organizer, it was this Russian-born guy, and it was his dream to have an American Grand Prix, which is a very random dream for a Russian.
It's like I mean, if you want to build it, they will come, I guess. Like.
And he was finally able to organize a U.S. Grand Prix. So, 19 entries, there were 19 entries, including 6 American drivers. It was actually originally scheduled to be the first race of the season, but it actually ended up being the last race of the season, so the, like, World Driver Championship race, essentially. And the way they did points then was very different. They've changed it a lot over
They've
time.
changed it so
I'm not
many
even going to
times.
try. I started to look into it, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not. We're not going to go into that. So some of the recognizable names that were driving in this race, I only wrote down a few of them, but Bruce McLaren, Jack Brabham, Wolfgang von Trips, who we mentioned before, and Phil Hill. So these
Phil
are all
Hill.
names that we've spoken about before.
If you haven't, go ahead and listen to the Phil Hill episode.
I think it was our Get Ready for COTA last year.
Yeah. I love Phil Hill.
So there was also one other entry that was the only American-built, American-driven entry, and it was a driver named Roger Ward, and he was in a Curtis Offie midget car, aka a speed car.
We've talked about him before.
Yeah. So all the rest of them are in F1 cars, and he's in a midget car.
Why?
So that's actually part of the. So
why was that even
the race
allowed?
organizer Ullman called him up and offered him some money, and there's a quote of him saying, "Well, I was in the habit of accepting money, so I said sure." I said the midget will be there. That's what he said.
Wait. I'm so confused. Wait. So he called up this guy and was like,
Well, he was the number 1 American in that
in that field.
Yeah. And so because it was an American race.
What's the difference?
Oh,
in
significantly
speed?
different. That car is significantly slower. Yeah, so his car was severely underpowered. But the race organizer just wanted him there. And I don't think he did very well.
That's horrible.
I think he just was there for the fun and the money.
True.
He was
getting
paid to attend.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had qualifying, obviously, but overnight the qualifying positions were changed because apparently a driver named Harry Schell had done a lap at the end of quali that had gone unnoticed. I don't really know how that happens, but it had gone unnoticed. This caused actually a screaming match before the race and carried on through the national anthem. Like, apparently, the Ferrari, I believe, like, the head of Ferrari at the point was, like, screaming about this because it kicked one of his drivers out of the, like, front row.
Oh, my God.
Which is entertaining. But Schell had actually cheated on that quali lap, but people didn't find out about that until after the race. So apparently he, like, cut an entire section of the track. Like, he realized that one of the runoff rows, like, connected to the rest of the track and was just like, skirt.
He found that Mario Kart.
And, like, nobody noticed. And so when they found out afterwards, nothing really happened because he, like, being that far up in the starting order didn't really help him because by the end of the first lap, he was already in 8th. So his cheating didn't really help him in the long run, which goes to show cheating never helps you. You never win when you cheat.
It's like tortoise and a hare.
Yeah. So for most of the race, Brabham was actually in the lead and McLaren was in second. They were both on the same team. And then eventually, it was in the last 400 yards of the race, Brabham's car ran out of gas. This happened, like, so often back then.
We talked about, or maybe...
You might have gone over... I think it's happened multiple times because I don't think that this... He did push it to the end of the race. I think multiple drivers have pushed their cars to the end of the race.
Okay.
If we have talked about this before, it was like a quick snippet.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think we've spoken about this entire race.
Yeah.
If not, well, now you get two different...
yeah.
Mary Catherine told the last one. I'm telling this one. I don't think we've spoken about it, though. So, Brabham's car ran out of gas on the last 400 yards, and the team manager had actually told him before the race to start it with a full tank of gas, but he wanted to have a lighter car and thought that would have more of an advantage. And so he thought he had the right amount of gas, but actually just was 400 yards short, which is really funny. And so, seeing his teammate was slowing down, Bruce McLaren took his foot off the gas to be like, "What's going on? Like, you got to go. Like, you're ahead of me," which is very kind because that would never happen nowadays. No teammate would just like be like, "Hey, teammate, like, what? You're ahead of me. Like, go on." No, they would like completely blow right past each other. So Brabham actually waved him on, and so then McLaren ended up winning the race. A driver named Trintignant came in second by less than a second. It was like 0.6 of a second. Probably would have been a bigger gap if Bruce McLaren had not had to slow down to like check out what was going on with Brabham. And then Trintignant had set the fastest lap in the last 3 laps of the race. And this was actually the last time an extra point was awarded for fastest lap until Australia 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Brooks got 3rd. He had been in the lead of the race at the very beginning. And then Brabham actually had to get out of his car and push the car to the end, getting 4th. And this was Brabham's first World Drivers' Championship and the first time an Aussie had won the World Drivers' Championship. And this was also the first Constructors' Championship for his team, Cooper. And McLaren became the youngest winner at 22 years and 104 days old. He actually won prize money, which was like $15,000, I think. Yeah. And he won several acres of land adjoining Sebring Lake. Can you imagine if that was part of the prize now for winning, that you get, like, a plot of land?
Damn.
The race was actually considered a financial disaster, though, so the race organizer basically just broke even. But he did try again the next year when he held the race in Riverside. I didn't go too deep into that one, so I don't know if that one was financially better for him. But, yeah, that's the 1959 US Grand Prix. It seemed very chaotic, but I also feel like every race that we read about from, like, 1975 and earlier, even like 1980 and earlier, just seems like absolute chaos. Like, it seems like the drivers were just chaotic. It seems
safety was
insane.
non-existent.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the 1959 U.S. Grand Prix.
So, we did quickly mention it in our Get Ready With Us for Australia because...
Jack Brabham.
He was the driver of the week. So, I mentioned that he came in 4th, but he ran out of fuel with 400 yards left and had to push his car.
It is unfortunate.
Yeah.
It happens, I guess. I think that it's happened to multiple drivers, though.
I mean, yeah. Plus, like, who knows how... Yeah. Who knows how easy that was to, like, predict.
Yeah.
Back then.
I mean, he got pretty close to predicting it correctly.
Yeah.
400
yards.
That's
the thing.
How far is 400 yards?
I don't know. We'll measure it later.
Is yards close to meters?
I don't really know. Think of a yardstick from elementary school.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of close to a meter. I would imagine.
Maybe, I don't know. Is a yard a meter?
I don't know. This is our American education.
This is an embarrassing conversation that we're now putting on the internet for people to hear.
I feel like this is a typical American conversation, not understanding the distance of what like a meter is compared to like a foot or a yard. Because for some reason we decided to be unique and just change things.
Okay, anyways, let's get back on topic.
Yeah, so that I don't have anything else to say about this race actually. I do want to have a race weekend where we actually like read about Bruce McLaren because of McLaren being one of our favorite teams, and I don't really know much about him other than the fact that he's from New Zealand.
Yeah, I'll have to do a deep dive.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be next.
And at that point, he was the youngest winner. At 22 years old, imagine.
Yeah, and then Rodriguez came. And he was
probably
19.
The next year after that.
Yeah, he was 19.
Yeah.
And then was that beaten by who was Max? Did Max beat that?
No, it was beaten several years before that. It's been beaten like it gets beaten all the time.
Yeah.
Because they also like incorporate actual days in that calculation.
I think Ollie beat it.
Ollie who?
Behrman beat youngest driver.
To win. We're saying I said youngest driver to win race.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, Ollie did not win the race he was in.
Yeah, never mind.
He came in like 7th or 8th.
Yeah, never mind.
All right. Well, we are going to get into our final thoughts now. Okay, so there has been some drama going on in the F1 world because it's the F1 world. It's basically Real Housewives, but in cars.
I also feel like it's just a lot of people are open this season.
People love to just talk this season.
Yeah, but I think that happens probably every big season shift.
Yeah, that's probably true. So this has nothing to do with like F1 related drama at all, but on social media yesterday, so in the Netherlands, it was King's Day. And Martin Garrix, Max and Lando are very good friends with Martin Garrix, as we know, on social media. If you're our mom and you don't know who Martin Garrix is, Martin Garrix is a DJ.
This one's for you, Donna.
So it was King's Day yesterday, and so Lando joined Martin Garrix in Amsterdam in a boat party. And apparently Lando ended up getting like a shard of like a broken glass on like in his nose. And he's quoted in the past saying, "I don't like alcohol," and all the videos of him are like acting like me, like in the club.
I mean, anyone can just be vibing.
He could just be vibing, but he was also like holding a cup of something.
Yeah.
And got like glass in his face, and they took some gauze and just like wrapped it once around his face, and he's just like smiling in all the videos.
Hey, I mean, I tore my ear at a party on a boat, so.
Oh no, we've all been there. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Back to the actual drama. Adrian Newey is leaving Red Bull.
Yeah, that one was
kind of
not
crazy.
Predicted.
So apparently he does not have faith in the leadership of the team and does not like the direction that the team is going in. And apparently these rumors started after Christian Horner and that whole situation that we had at the beginning of the season.
That thing that is
that just no
really,
one,
like,
people just stopped
about.
talking about it. We never got any answers on anything, which has really irritated us for a while now. That like, we had all of these races at the beginning of the season have been like 2-week breaks in between, and there was a 2-week break, and then no one mentioned it again.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know why it felt like it was like once it was like International Women's Month, it was like ended. It's like no more talk about it.
It was very strange.
But, I also, I don't know what's going on behind scenes. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's been very weird.
But Adrian Newey's leaving. He probably has a non-compete clause that he's probably not going to be able to go to someone directly.
I'm not
next
sure.
year.
He might not have a non-compete, knowing
because of his experience. He might
knowing the way this industry works.
Yeah.
He also has the power to not have a to.
But he also might be such a good, technical director.
I feel like it would have already been announced if he had a non-compete. If it would have already been announced if
it probably
he
would have
was,
been a part of the announcement.
yeah, if he was not going to be possibly working next season, so I don't think there's a non-compete. That was
so we don't know where he's going. People are speculating it's possibly going to be Ferrari, with Charles and Lewis being there next year. But also that just we don't know, is Max going to stay at Red Bull? Like, are people, like, we don't know who's going to stay where.
Well, my whole question is, who's going to replace Adrian Newey? I don't care about where everyone else is going.
Yeah.
Who's going to replace, like, what does this mean for Red Bull and the Red Bull dominance? You know?
Red Bull dominance is done now. Max is a phenomenal driver.
Listen, I would hope that there would be people.
Though.
No, I know that, but I would hope that there would be people at Red Bull that, like, were being mentored by Adrian Newey. Like, obviously you're not going to get the brain of Adrian Newey, but, like...
Or is Mercedes going to cough up all the money because they've been struggling so much because of their car to get him?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see when it's announced, but,
yeah. I don't know how much money he's going to be making, too. He's going to be making bank.
I mean, he's probably making bank now.
Yeah.
It's Red Bull.
Yeah.
You know.
There's also been some rumors that Logan Sargent is going to be replaced halfway through the season.
If he does not perform well at the Miami GP.
Apparently, people are saying that he's going to be replaced by Kimi Antonelli.
I
think that's bullshit.
Feel like I saw that he was going to be replaced by Liam Lawson, which I don't know how that would work, but, like, They
would have to pay Red Bull for him,
I
think.
Yeah, and I don't think Williams... I don't know. I love Williams, but right now, I feel like a Jets fan, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know how to hurt me, and I feel like what we saw with Nick DeVries happen was really hard to see, and it would really be hard to see Williams do that. But I also know that this is a business.
Well, and it's not like they only gave him 10 races. It's been a year and a half.
Yeah, and, I feel like there were probably stipulations put in place when he signed, like, when they had him for this coming year. Like, they've given him a lot of chances.
Yeah.
And so if it does happen... I would feel like my heart would break for anyone.
Yeah.
That, like, you never want to see someone get fired.
Yeah.
But it's also financially, well, some people need to get fired. But, like, I think financially, it literally might not.
I think people go into it with a very emotional mindset sometimes.
Understandably so.
But I think when you are in the position that you have to fire someone, most of the time it's not out of, like, an emotional aspect. It's because of business. We live in a capitalist society. People need to make money. Like, this is just how business works sometimes, unfortunately. I wish that we could allow everyone who wants to drive on the grid a spot on the grid, but...
But there's only 20 spots, and there's a lot more than 20 drivers in the world.
Yeah.
But...
I think that might be all the drama that's going on. I feel like there was something else. Oh, this is not drama, but this has been happening. Charles Leclerc has a ice cream company now that you can... I think there's, like, an actual store in Milan for it called LEC. L-E-C. It's kind of a random thing.
Yeah, cool.
I guess maybe like, personally, in his personal life, just really loves ice cream.
I hope so.
I mean, he's, like, never talked about ice cream before.
Yeah, we've never, like... I can't really imagine Charles Leclerc eating ice cream.
I can't imagine him, like, sitting on a couch watching a rom-com eating an entire pint of ice cream.
Yeah, but they're also, like, their diets are strict.
I wonder if he wants to be able to do that, but he just can't. And so he made ice cream to give to everybody else so that they can do that.
Yeah, but I feel like they all have, like, kind of random ventures. I mean, they're loaded. They need hobbies.
But also not at the same time. Like Lewis with El Mave, like, it makes sense to me, almost. Like, he has talked about not being much of a drinker, and, like, having a non-alcoholic spirit makes sense, especially with, like, right now.
Yeah.
With people, like, being a bit more sober.
I mean,
having like, a dry lifestyle.
I'm not saying any of them are... I'm just saying they're all quite random.
Who else has a random venture?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think. I think they're all kind of, it makes sense.
All right.
The rest of them, they all have like merch lines.
Or karting companies.
Yeah, Lando literally has like a karting company.
Yeah.
One of them needs to, like, I know Danny has Enchante, but one of them needs to come out with like a legit fashion line. Like if Lewis were to release like an actual fashion line, it would make so much sense to me.
I'm sure he's working on it.
Well, he's working on music too. Charles is a musician, a ice cream business owner, an F1 driver,
I think
a
it's
dog
gonna be,
owner. Did you see he put his dog in his pocket?
I did. I think it's gonna be interesting next season to see that dynamic.
Well, people were saying, did he get a dog to try and relate more to Lewis?
Maybe the guy just wanted a dog, guys.
And like, did he come out with another like business venture to relate more to Lewis?
Guys,
Charles is not trying to become
Holy
Lewis.
Crap. Anyways,
I think that's all for today. We will let you all go. I'm speaking like I do this every time. I try to end
You're talking
like
teacher.
I'm ending my meetings or like I'm ending like a
Like a
class. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.